Hey, how's it going? My name is Emma. If you're new here, that is my name, and this is my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stumbling upon it. If this is your first time watching a summary of one of my around the world reading challenges progress, I will link the rest up above. Very briefly, I'm just trying to read a book from every single country in the world. I will very quickly run you down all the countries I've read from so far. I started this challenge over in 2021, I believe? So last year was the first year I did it, and I just like restarted. So if I had read a country before when I restarted my challenge, I just went fresh. This video is just gonna be an update on what I read so far this year for around the world, as well as showing you guys what I have on my shelf that can be read for this challenge. So let me really quickly tell you what I've read. So I feel like I've read this list so much, so I'm gonna like try to speed through it. Japan, India, China, Russia, Chile, Finland, the UK, Turkey, France, South Africa, Iraq, South Korea, Poland, United States, Italy, Brazil, Lebanon, Canada, Germany, Zimbabwe, Romania, Mexico, Argentina, and I will be telling you the other countries that I've added to this list right now. So without further ado, let's just get into it. The first one that I read this year was Norway. I adored the book that I chose for it. This is The Ice Palace. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. This is about a frozen waterfall and the friendship between two girls. One of them goes missing in the frozen waterfall, which is known as the Ice Palace because it's created like a variety of structures around itself made of ice, and I thought this was stunning. One of my favorite books of the year so far. I highly recommend Tari Besos. I also have The Birds on my shelf. These editions are gorgeous, and I just really loved like ice. I really love when ice is represented as layers of the subconscious and its play on like memory and repression and repressing things and like having to go through layers, both literally in this book into like a frozen waterfall, but also of course like within yourself. It's about grief, nature, and it's just really gorgeous, and I highly recommend this one, so I'm really glad I got to read Norway this year. I also got to read it from Ukraine. Someone recommended I read this for Ukraine, and that is Vida Nostra. I ended up not really loving this book. I'd love to read something not super like fantasy for Ukraine, something that does have to deal with the country and that is set in Ukraine, because I think the rest of these books are pretty much all set within the country and do have to do at least with something about the country, and I have gotten to learn about the country from reading these books, which was definitely a part of my goal at the start, and Vida Nostra didn't really fit that. I'll definitely read something else from Ukraine, but this is like a dark, it's like pitched as like a dark academia fantasy, and I was really disappointed with this one. It just didn't work for me on a number of levels. We follow this girl named Sasha who gets a visit from this very creepy man who lets her know that she has been selected to join a special school, and she's basically threatened until she accepts the invitation to the school, and there she learns things that are very different from what you would learn at your typical school. This just was not the book for me. However, it works for so many people. I think I gave this around like 3 stars, a low 3 stars. Another one of my favorite books I read so far this year. I also got to buddy read this with my partner. That is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This one has also been on my shelf for a really long time, and this one was for Nigeria. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This is again like masterfully crafted. Like we read this back in, I think, February or March, and we still talk about it pretty often. It always comes up in conversation. I think this is just so brilliant. In this one, you're following Okonkwo, who is one of the strongest warriors in his village, and you pretty much just follow him on his life. Yams play a huge role in this book because he has to farm yams, and that's like the symbol. That is one of the biggest symbols in this book, is the yam. But then slowly things start to change in the village. It's not until quite a long ways through the book when white missionaries begin to show up in his village, but by that point Okonkwo has already been banished from his village because he accidentally kills a clansman, and that results in his exile, and it's about what happens when he eventually does make his way back home. This was devastating in like a number of different devastating ways. I think I gave this a 4.5. I'd maybe even bump it up to a 5. I want to reread this book desperately, but once again, really good one. Next, I got to read from Ireland, and I picked up Solar Bones by Mike McCormack. This was actually on one of my university syllabi, so that's where I heard of it, and that is why I picked it up. I really did enjoy this. This is set on All Souls Day, and we have this man named Marcus Conway. He's dead, he's died, but he still lingers. A trace of him still lingers. And he's sitting at his kitchen table like the ghost of himself, or the consciousness of himself, or that that trace of himself, and he is able to like see his own death, to like witness his life, and because he's dead he can kind of see all of the minuscule connections that tie everything together. He lives in a very remote Irish town. This theme of connections and like this interweaving web really starts to become very visible when the town is hit by a pandemic that basically rages its way through the whole town. He's also an engineer, so he knows that like one thing going wrong in one system will like blow up and affect everyone in a certain society, or whatever the case may be. This is also pretty much stream of consciousness. I don't think this is a book I would read again. It's more a book that I like having the ideas of it and discussing it rather than actually enjoying reading it, if you know what I mean. Speaking of trying new things, broadening your horizons, let's take a quick moment of silence. Not silence because I'm going to be speaking, to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers classes in so many different subject areas. For this one, I am going to re-recommend a class that I have come back to so many times. I thought it was perfect for this video, and that is literature from around the world. This will take you on something pretty similar to the Reading Around the World challenge that I'm doing. This is currently taught by Eve Williams. It's also called Your Guide to Becoming Very Well Read, and it just takes you through literature. It gives you some foundation in myth and where these ideas came from, and how literature has grown into what it is today before taking you around the world. Reading people I've already read for this journey, like Tolstoy, Chinua Achebe, and so many others, so I would highly recommend this one if you would like a good resource for extending your reading list. I think this is really cool. So the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description box will get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Thank you so much again to Skillshare, and let's get back into the video. The book I cannot speak highly enough, probably, is this the top spot? I don't know. I actually don't know anymore. This is Season of Migration to the North. This is from Sudan. This might be my favorite. I think this is the favorite, at least in this list so far. I love this. This was a recommendation from you guys. Thank you so much. One of my favorite books, like probably ever. I think this is one of the greatest things I've ever read. I cannot recommend this enough. This is about a man named Mustafa who leaves Sudan, goes to the United Kingdom to get an education. It's about what happens to him there. He's lionized. Certain people, like the left and the right, either like abuse him and are obviously extremely racist to him, or you have the other side that just like kind of uses him as like an exotic object, and it's just awful. And then eventually he comes back to Sudan, and it's about the effects of what his English education have kind of done to him, what's been done to him, what he chooses to do with that, what he chooses to do to others. It is gorgeously written. Like I underlined something on almost every single page. However, this book is also set from the perspective of our unnamed narrator, who is pretty much like a parallel to Mustafa. He was also educated in the United Kingdom. This is a book that just like reminds you why you read books. Highly recommend. 5 stars. Okay, from Australia, this one was a gift from Joy, so thank you so much. I chose to read the poetry collection My People by Uchuru. This is a really powerful collection. I underlined so many poems, I had so many favorites, and I definitely would highly recommend. I'd love to read more from this author. Her poetry was first published in the 1960s, and she provided a brave new voice for marginalized Aboriginal Australians. These next two I'll probably talk briefly about as well, because I reread 100 Years of Solitude. This one is going to be for Colombia, although I want to read so much more Colombian literature, but this was just the first one I got to this year again, and since it is a reread, I just counted it for Colombia. This is my favorite book of all time. If you don't know what 100 Years of Solitude is about, I don't want to tell you, okay? You're not gonna get the answers from me. You're not. I think that's what I've decided. I'm just not gonna tell you what it's about, because I had ideas of what this was about before I went into it, and it was so fun having all of those ideas just be completely wrong. All I can say is that this book is like a part of me. I am so grateful that I got to reread it this year. And then the last one that I have fully completed is from Denmark, and that is again a piece of poetry, Butterfly Valley by Christensen. I love this. This is probably my favorite poetry collection I read all year. I think this is glorious. The collection centers around like butterflies and memory, and there's also a few more poems too. There's like I think four sections in here, but I highly recommend. This one just cuts straight to the core, and look, we match. I also have this stack on my shelf, which I just wanted to kind of running down my plans for the rest of this year. I have a couple books that I don't think I've been able to show anywhere. These first two, I wanted to get your opinion which one. I mean, I'm gonna read both of them because I own both of them and I want to read both of them, but which one I should read for Sweden, because I have these two. I have Kallocain by Karen Boye. I believe this is like a dystopian, yes, which depicts a totalitarian world state which seeks to crush the individual entirely. And I think this was like her response to the Second World War. And then we also have A Living Soul by P.C. Yersold. This is the one I'm leaning towards because this is about like a human? No. He's a naked one-eyed brain floating in an aquarium of nutritious liquid. Yes, that sounds like something I want to read like immediately. So if you know, Karen Boye is pretty famous. I've never heard of Yersold, but let me know. I'll tell you which ones I kind of want to get to before the year runs out. The first one is definitely The Blind Owl. This one would be my pick for Iran. I want to read this so badly. And I think it's gonna happen because it's very thin. I believe this is about a man's, is it like his descent into madness? I've heard so many things about this book, but none of them have like, it's all just been some like floating hard puzzle to put together. It's all been kind of like hush hush about this book, which I'm like very intrigued about. But this one, want to read so bad. And then another short one is Chess by Spike, one of those. This is Chess, and this is for Austria. This is also the author that inspired the Grand Budapest Hotel, and I want to read so many of his books, but this one looks so cool. This is on a steamship on the way to Buenos Aires in 1941, and there's like a world-class chess star on board. It's about what happens when he gets challenged to a chess match. Okay, and then these ones are wishful thinking, but I would really love to read Hungary, I believe. This is Satan Tango by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. I cannot wait. This is gorgeous, first of all. This sounds extremely dark, gritty. Stuff from Nicaragua, Infinity in the Palm of Her Hand by Giocondo Belli. This is a novel of Adam and Eve, so it's about like Adam and Eve in the garden. This just sounds fascinating, and this came with a really nice note. I recommended I read this for the Around the World challenge. The next one I have here, I bought Palace Walk. This is for Egypt. I like listened to a sample of the audiobook, and I'm just like waiting for the opportune moment to pick this one up. But this one is a family chronicle, I believe, and we follow their lives like mirroring what is going on in Cairo, because this is the Cairo trilogy. So there's like 3 of these books, which is also very intriguing to me. And then this is one I'm probably going to read next because I have an audiobook in for it, and that is Blindness by Saramago. This would be my pick for Portugal. This one I've heard really mixed things about. Some people love it, some people hate it. I know there's an epidemic of blindness that strikes the city, so everyone goes blind except for like a dog and a small child. A boy with no mother, a girl with dark glasses, and a dog of tears. And then these two, the first one I recently picked up, and this is for Cuba. That is the Dirty Havana trilogy by Gutierrez. I don't know anything about this book. I really don't. I recently found it in a book box. I didn't know of its existence before that, so I just scooped it up, brought it home, and here it is. The last one I have here is another collection of poetry, and that is Novel and Other Poems by George Seferis, and this is for Greece. This one I'm so interested in. It also has the Greek on one side and the English on the other. But this one is very concerned with like modern Greece, I believe, contemporary Greece, and I think a little bit of the author's life. So that is my little Around the World update. I've seen a lot of you guys like start your own challenge, which is so fun. So if you are participating, or if you're doing your own, you're going on your little journey, you're taking your flight around the world, how's it going? Who's you read from, or like recommendations? Most of the books that I've read for this challenge have been like me combing through my comments and reading all of your recommendations, so a huge thank you for that one. If you have any more, now is the time to put them out. Like, what country should I read from next? What books should they be? I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. I hope you're doing well, and until the next one, I will see you soon. Ciao.